got some on and dropped back on size because of the shoulder, but wanting to have some exposure because I think there's potential here because of what I was just talking about. But as far as if there are traders on the wrong side of the market, they're not going to cover in here, are they? We might need a catalyst for something to happen. Back off side again. So our shoulders remained intact. Our multiple failures areas remained intact. So I don't need to hang around in this. I'm just going to take a small loss. And the fact is, once you get all those failures and it starts to look like it's failing, you can normally act a little bit quicker than, say, the competition. I don't have any hypothesis to get on the short side. I'm completely focused on the long side. So taking a small loss, I'm not flipping short or anything like that. So knowing about that shoulder helped reduce the harm. Could have abandoned it altogether, but I explained my rationale for wanting to have at least something on. But you can suddenly get to recognize, hang on, we need a catalyst. So we couldn't get through the speed hump. I just did a quick look over everything. It's like, okay, is there anything I particularly missed? Well, one thing that we thought would happen is a failure here. Well, a reaction, which has been more than a reaction, hasn't it? It's actually a failure. And that coincides with that, what I referred to as the speed hump. And we've just come down to an area of business. So if you were short, then now would be a good place to get the money off because of that area, plus, front running the pre-pro low. So that's a good example of the shoulder trade, which I actually took the opposite side of. But the awareness about the shoulder meant that the damage on the long side was reduced even further. And this is not some genuine sell-off that is due to a whole lot of longs bailing, is it? You can tell that by the fact that it's single digits. There's a lack of participation and the market maker's gone, okay, well, let's pop down here. So we want to be on the lookout for the next opportunity to get long, right? So first attempt, wait for the next one. That all happened pretty quickly, but there was a reverse shoulder. And I've spoke about this example on, I think it was Friday, where I talked through being able to see things develop in time to be able to, enter into it and see how this notion of we're not going to flip short, we're just looking for the long, we're looking for the next long, see how that approach gets you prepared for it. So I missed getting in down here, but then as I said, this behavior in here was no different to what I outlined the other day to get long. And I was happy to do it because nothing's changed, right? All the points of evidence that I talked about earlier, they're all still completely valid, aren't they? They're the same ones. And what we know with trading is that it can take more than one go. The reason why you can't hold and wait for it to eventually work is the one that works can be at a very different price to the one that doesn't. Now let's watch for the trap. So we're up here. So I talked about this being maybe a trap. How better to set it up than actually really suggest that, that big business there definitely is an area where failures should occur. Can you see how it all joins together? So now that the long inventory, it's still not offside, we're just trading at it. I'm long because of all the evidence that I've put forward. And now I'm just looking for the next piece of the puzzle to play out. But thus far, I'm glad I'm not short, put it that way. I'm glad I haven't joined the short side who think that big area of business, 66,105, is an area to get short. Because traders who've seen that aren't necessarily short from there. They're short from lower levels, aren't they? So they're all offside. So right now, what are they waiting for? They're waiting for it to work out. So what does the failures up here attract them to doing? So this is where you need to understand what a lot of people do. Add, because it reduces the discomfort of how much they're offside. We talk a lot about cognitive RAM or the RAM available. When you're in a trade and you're offside, you don't have access to the same clear thinking that you would have if you weren't in a position at all, because it's just how our minds work. They're not capable of being completely overloaded. There's a limit. So when they're adding, they're not thinking about the aspect of how bad that decision could be, which is why it is such a brutal trap. They know in the clear of day, you can explain them to them how dangerous that is, but they don't have the available RAM to be able to think it through now. It's a good game of chess, isn't it? Hopefully that all makes sense as to how people get caught, because a big part of what we talk about is reps because of mental RAM. You need available mental RAM to be able to think things through, and where people don't is where they get caught. I'll take some off up here. Why? It's the pre-pro height. Why am I not getting flat? Because of all the evidence I talked about before with this whole trade. Speed hump, gone. Pre-pro highs, almost gone. The big buying, gone. So now you got more points of evidence. That's definitely why I'm not flat. What do I need to think about now? What's the next thing that I may have even been a bit slow on? Expansion. Can't fight expansion. Have a look for reversion selling. Any of the models hitting I don't really see it at this level, but that's pretty much expansion, called close enough. Close enough that I want to be taking more money again. Okay, so there's my entry off the shoulder as we get up to expansion. Here's my pre-pro. Here's me being a bit slow about expansion and having to take some money there. Okay, so that's an error. There's the shoulder. I'm also trying to manage the rest of this. And so now it's just a runner. There's some order exit flow that you can see taking place. And that's well and truly expansion. I really don't have much left now, so it's probably where I'm going to have to call it quits. So that's the shoulder that I spoke about. Multiple failures in, and it's more about the evidence and everything else as opposed to some magical stuff that's happening here on a chart.